Yep. Yep. All right. Oh, I gotta go. I'm busy. Gotta go. Bye. Just balling. You know me. Busy. Working hard. Hustle. Merit. All that stuff. Might buy Twitter next week. See how we go. Sometimes, Taya, you don't necessarily need to indulge every single impulse that you have. Noted. All right. Hello. I'm not going to say it. Not going to say it, but I'm hoping that it's a quick one. Aren't they all? They're always quick. So, if you watch my last couple of videos, you'll know that I've been talking a bit more about the sort of the sleight of hand that is starting to sort of emerge. I think it's really, you know, to sit back. I know this might seem boring for people, right? But, you know, I find this stuff really interesting. You might find it boring, but I just really enjoy watching where people's gaps and those little slippery things and those little, you know, manipulations, like this tiny little switch, but, you know, those little things, little tricks that no one pays attention to, right? I never got into magic as a kid. I don't know why, because, you know, this whole optical illusion and, you know, these political illusions that sort of exist and, you know, where people's gaps are exploited. And there's a really good example today, actually. Well, not today. It was like 2 days ago. I got this email. And the only reason that I'm using this as a source is because I've seen this source quoted on some like very prominent YouTube channels, right? So Russell Brand has mentioned them. Tim Pool refers to them a lot. I think Jimmy Dore has, you know, all those guys that sort of, you know, go, yeah, you know, there's the truth and then the truth kind of people, right? Where they're kind of borderline and, yeah, you know, you watch them, but, you know, those people. But they use Reclaim the Net as a source. Hang on, I think my audio is peaking out. There we go. But they use this Reclaim the Net as a source, right? Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Rod. Yes, you are too American in that you can't see outside of that. So, you know, that's fine. So, what was I going to say? I'm going to point something out here. I don't want to get derailed with the chats. I thought I'd had them turned off. Here's a teachable moment, which is that rather than talking to me as a peer or as somebody worthy of respect, it always comes back to, you know, looks or, you know, how, I you know, something to do with reproduction or looks or attractiveness or, you know, like this is an interesting thing because you are a sociologist and I find it interesting that there's a sort of weird backward, I can't think of the word right now because I wasn't planning on, you know, there's 100 of them, but that form of ad hominem where it's like, you know, rather than addressing what I've actually said and the actual, the argument, because I could actually talk to you about what centrism is, which it doesn't exist in terms of political spectrum if you're actually outside of America. America's redefined those political terms. A centrist, it does not mean independent, okay? You know, there's no such thing as centrism in terms of a political compass. So anyway, I'm moving on. But women are emotional or unattractive or it's like whether they're fuckable or whatever. All we want is to be considered equals without mentioning all that other stuff. Love you, Rod. I'm just roasting. Anyway, warming up. So you came in at the right time because I was just warming up. You're all good. I'm just whining you. It's all right. So it's just a dude thing. And, you know, you're a good dude and we've talked and, you know, we've talked about this stuff. There's just a big misunderstanding here but just a little teachable moment about how to approach women who are talking about something that is in their area of expertise. Don't open with their looks. You know, I don't give a shit. I don't care if I look like 17 like vaginas all over my face and it's like gaping with pus. What I have to say is what. Anyway, this is the problem. Okay, let me roast America again for a little bit. You don't get more right the more rich you are, and you don't get more correct the more attractive you are. That seems to be the misconception here, is that, you know, look past the veneer and the looks and all that stuff and actually listen to the substance of what people are saying. Maybe that's where America goes wrong, is that most of your journalists are not really the kind of people that you would, the kind of people that spend 2 hours in makeup chairs rather than reading books. Just having some fun. Let's go. Anyway, so the misinformation, disinformation sleight of hand. Okay. And this is something that you should be paying very careful attention to, because some of it is just mistaken. Okay. Let's be charitable and say, like, it's easy to stutter with them. They're easily confused. I've talked about what the difference is before. Disinformation is an intent to deceive, an intent to trick, like a, you know, much like the difference between, say, murder and manslaughter. Okay. Even murder and criminal negligence, okay, which is in murder you need intent, okay, there's criminal intent there. Negligent is just, you know, you didn't mean to, it just ended in a certain way. So that's the difference. So that's that legal distinction. These things are defined, and this is the thing that I think is quite slippery and quite concerning, because there's a whole bunch of people that use these kind of sources, which, you know, do provide some good news. They do, good analysis. They do provide some. I'm not saying that they're completely bullshit, but I'm saying that if you are running something that is talking about digital rights and doing analysis around censorship and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. Now, yeah, it's a right-wing mag, whatever, okay, libertarian. United States, who cares? Not the only fucking people in the world. This is another thing. It's just the discourse around this is just so obscenely American, which is that this idea that American free speech is somehow the default. It's like, you know, that the United Nations Convention on Human Rights pretty much says the same thing, and also, you know, other people have different applications for these ideas. You're not the boss of us, America. You don't own us. You're not in charge. You're not the default. You've rewritten everything, and you know, you just don't get to decide and declare how things are, and expect the rest of the world to just fall into line with whatever the fuck you say. Like the word centrist doesn't exist. Socialism and capitalism are intractable ideologies. It's called a cleavage, okay? Look up cleavage theory. They're intractable. There's no real compromise position. Socialism exists as a critique of capitalism. They don't exist separately. They're not against each other. They're not, okay, there's a cleavage in terms of they're in conflict, but socialism is a critique of capitalism. Without capitalism as a structure, socialist analysis doesn't exist. You can't be so fucking stupid. And it's not their fault. It's like, oh my God. Anyway, this is like God botherers coming in and Jesus people coming in and just wanting me to just accept the premise that God exists. And it's like, no, that's your worldview. And it's not, there's no evidence for that. It's like, fucking hell. Anyway. How do you fight hegemony? It's quite a big thing to fight, okay? We can't. We can just focus on this little sleights of hand come out, more out of America than anywhere else. There we go, back on topic. Speaking of bullshit, let's talk more about the misinformation, disinformation sleight of hand and how this stuff is used to mislead, to you know, manufacture and concoct some sort of anti-European message. Again, the Europeans are all authoritarian world, all this World Economic Forum conspiracy shit, right? But there's this article. So let me screen share. I'm fun. I'm making myself laugh. I'm enjoying myself. Sorry for getting off track there, but it's related. So this article from Reclaim the Net, right? You know, I got this email, Reclaim the Net. You've probably seen it used as a source if you sort of venture around the place. And so this is an article from an organization who claims to be about digital rights. And I think that this is one of the things where, you know, the bar, what I would expect for you to know if you are running if you're running a publication like this, is that you would understand the difference between misinformation and disinformation. And if you deliberately change them, okay, or interchange them, this is something you should know. If you get it wrong, then I'm going to have to assume that you are getting it wrong on purpose, okay? Because this is where, you know, like I know that everyone and their black and white brains and black and white thinking and world of absolutes and all that stuff, and thinking that centrist is a fucking thing. I could do a 3-hour stream on why centrism is the stupidest idea in the world. It's not. There's just no left and right in America. You're just all right wing. Centrists are just confused people who are kind of on track. I'll have a lot of time for centrists. You're just confused. Anyway, so anyway, Elon Musk supports the EU's DSA, and I'll explain what that is in a minute. That's the Digital Services Act, right? That fines platforms that don't censor misinformation and hate speech. Now, if you are of, you know, the censorship variety, as I am, okay, but you don't read further, let's say you're an idiot and don't read. Let's say you don't click on the sources that they link to and read the things. Let's say maybe you're someone who's got an agenda that you just want to read a headline that affirms your worldview and you just, you know, let's say you're Tim Pool. All right? Let's say you don't read. Elon Musk supports the EU's DSA that fines platforms that don't censor misinformation, hate speech. Musk says the Digital Services Act is exactly aligned with his thinking. And that's a good thing. If you watch my stream on Elon Musk, and buying Twitter and, you know, like some of the concerns that I've had over the years and where I think it might be going, I'm like, about Elon Musk, I'm on the fence. He fucking gets it and then he doesn't get it and then he gets it and then he doesn't. It's like, you know, I don't know. I've been pretty clear about that. But it's unclear how much he knows about what it entails. And this is interesting. So I'm not going to read the whole thing to you because I don't like this whole reading article thing. But on Monday, the European Union's industry chief, Thierry Breton, I don't know how to say that, sorry, met with Elon Musk in Texas. The two seemed to agree about the new EU's social media regulation legislation, the Digital Services Act, okay, ahead of Musk's takeover of Twitter. Last month, blah, blah, blah. Okay, where are we? So here we go. So we're in Austin together with Elon Musk, Breton said in the video. We discussed many issues and I was happy to explain to you the DSA, the new regulation in Europe, and now you understand very well. It fits pretty well with what you think we should do with the platform. It's exactly aligned with my thinking, Musk said. It's been a great discussion and I really think I agree with everything you said, really. I think we're very much of the same mind and, you know, I think anything that my companies can do that would be beneficial to Europe, we want to do that. I just want to say that was really hard. That was hard to quote. You can't read that because there's lots of stammering. But anyway. But this is where it's unclear whether Breton fully explained the censorship proposals to Musk. This is where you see these little nudges, right? Censorship proposal. So again, you have to accept the idea that this is a censorship, that censorship is the goal. Okay, you have to accept the premise that they want to censor misinformation, okay? As the video does not go into details. The DSA, and then the DSA is a rule book for social media platforms which bans them from, among other things, advertising to kids or targeting users based on their gender, political affiliations, religion, and race. However, the law also calls for fines of companies that don't curb misinformation, hate speech, and more. So what happens when you actually click, one click from somebody who, this organization claims to be providing news? A lot of people rely on this reporting and information, right? A lot of people rely on this stuff. What's the Digital Services Act? Regulating platforms for a safer online space for users. And you know what you'll find? Basically the shit that I've been recommending. Okay. So the MEPs give green light to open negotiations with member states. Okay. Measures to counter illegal products, services, and content online, including clearly defined procedures on removing them. More options for tracking free advertising, and a ban on using a minor's data for targeting ads. All good things. Recipients of services would have the right to seek compensation for damages, which is great. Mandatory risk assessments and more transparency over algorithms to fight harmful content and disinformation. Okay? At no point in any of this is misinformation included. And this is the deliberate, I mentioned this with Jen Psaki and the US. The US are we know the US are a death cult, okay? They lie. They take anything that anyone says and they turn it into something opposite and then say, nah, you said that. Stop hitting yourself. That's the United States, right? Or they focus on how pretty you are or how you look rather than your ideas. So anyway, sorry, couldn't resist. So MEPs agreed a draft. Oh, that's actually too small, that text. Sorry, give me a sec. Here we go. MEPs agreed a draft set of measures to tackle illegal content. Illegal content. Now, what that means, let's drill down further. Varies from country to country. Okay. To ensure platforms are held accountable for their algorithms and improve content moderation. Okay, now, it approved with 530 votes to 78 with 80 abstentions. Okay, pretty large majority. So anyway, it's used as a mandate to negotiate with the French presidency of the council representing member states. Boring, boring, boring. So, at no point does it say misinformation. Removing illegal content and preventing the spread of disinformation. Not misinformation. Misinformation is accidental, inadvertent. Okay? Yes, there's a problem there with that warrants that, that research is still in progress around how to sort that out, right? That's a problem, but they're not criminalizing the accidental sharing of things. They're criminalising the deliberate. Gee, I wonder why the GOP and the Americans would oppose the spreading of disinformation. Why would that be? I wonder, mostly because they share nothing but fucking bullshit 24/7. Of course, it affects them. I've talked about this in the last stream, that this, when you getting people deliberately confused about misinformation and disinformation and getting people to believe that the accidental spreading of jokes or satire or that they're going to censor things, right, that are harmless is the same as the deliberate spreading of bullshit in order to sway elections or manipulate people or scam them or rip them off or, radicalize or all those things, okay? They're trying to create that false equivalency in your mind so you oppose this. And this is good stuff, okay? This is going to make the internet better. Now, there's going to be false positive. But again, it's got a process in place and some mechanisms in place that are going to be good. This is yet another American bunch of shit about the European Union and how authoritarian they are, and it's the World Economic Forum and the London School of Economics, and they're all bringing about communism, and they're indoctrinating our children because we want fucking insulin. Communism. Insulin is communism. And what we're going to do is pass policies with our panel of experts that we sourced on BitChute. Fucking idiots. So anyway, Digital Services Act. So it's defines clear responsibilities and accountability for providers of intermediary services, and in particular online platforms such as social media and marketplaces. So this stuff, it's just anyway. But what it does is they also differentiate between sort of smaller platforms and the very large platforms. Very specific. They need that distinction. They need those differences, right, in law. So so these are where we go. Additional obligations for very large platforms. Very large online platforms will be subject to specific obligations due to the particular risks they pose regarding the dissemination of both illegal and harmful content. Now, obviously, those things are loaded, but I've talked about this before, that these things will go through the courts. They will be decided. You need a law and you need a process in order for it to go through the courts. We're seeing this happen with some of the gender stuff now, is that it takes 10 years. It's going to take time. These are new problems. They are emerging problems. I don't know what to tell you. You're in a democracy, okay? There's a whole process of be a test case if you've got a problem. Okay, be a test case. But otherwise, it's just this is how it's going to work. If you're sitting there going, well, everyone has to do what I want because I decided that it's fucking urgent and I decided, you're not democratic. There's a democratic process to go through, which is that, first of all, you need to identify a problem correctly. You need to go through a process. You need to pass laws. You need to have those laws scrutinised at every level of government. You need a conversation. That happens with the EU. Then you've got the governments who have to actually, implement those international, all of this stuff. This stuff's complicated. Takes time. There's a process. Okay? What you should do is put your hat in the ring and go, hey, I got a problem. I got an idea. I'm going to call my MP and alert them to this problem maybe. And then maybe, if enough people do that, that MP might fucking tell his mates. And then they might write a bill. And then that bill might go before Parliament. And then they'll pass a law. And then that law will exist so that then when there's test cases, the judges can interpret that law, who also then need to provide reasons for their judgment. You can't just make a judgment out of fucking nowhere and declare rules that don't exist. This solves a problem, or at least begins to. Okay? These fuckheads like over on whatever fucking Narnia land where they make millions of dollars catering to idiots think that they can just yell and like the law passes. It's like, no, well, in America maybe. If you're American GOP right now, you're doing pretty well for yourself, aren't you? Getting all the TERFs to fucking support anti-trans and anti-LGBT legislation. Good job. But the rest of us fucking see what you're doing. So additional obligations for very large platforms. I do. The reason why I don't read articles is because you just read it while I rant. I don't read it. Anyway. How long have I been streaming for? Okay, 26 minutes. But so they've got, obviously large platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Google. I don't know what would constitute a very large platform. That's obviously got to be decided. But the DSA would help to tackle harmful content, which might not be illegal. Now, again, that's going to go through the courts. Sorry. Okay, you can't just decide it's harmful or not harmful. It's just that there needs to be laws. And the spread of disinformation, there's going to be people that take the piss, and then there's going to be a judge who goes, you're taking the piss, and then that will be a law and it will be decided. We went through this. I've talked about this. Went through this with the printing press, with yellow journalism, with freedom of speech in the UK around, the 18th century. All this stuff. They went through it. It took decades to figure this out, and this is a new problem. It's going to take a decade to sort out and decide what harmful online content is. But I think that what you should do is maybe be a bit more charitable and steel man these arguments. And yes, as much as I talk about, the dark shit hiding in the gaps and, making sure that, but that's what the process does. If you've got enough people and enough eyes and enough people looking at stuff, generally speaking, that helps the public trust. So, and that's what Elon Musk, he wants greater transparency as well. They're the same thing. So, anyway, side point, brain fart. Okay. So this is the interesting stuff. So this is the stuff that the risk. So the DSA harmful content and the spread of disinformation, not misinformation, by including provisions on mandatory risk assessments, risk mitigation measures, independent audits, and the transparency of so-called recommender systems, which is the algorithms. This is what Elon Musk is talking about. The opening up of the algorithms. Oh, but they're trying to criminalize misinformation. No, they're not. Stop lying. And the reason why you're saying that, even though you claim to be independent, I doubt it, you can't have any level of success in that ecosystem without getting mad money from somewhere. I know how long things take. Bullshit. Okay, you make money lying to radicalize people, saying that misinformation is going to be criminalized when you know very well, as an expert on the internet and everything involving internet policy, the difference between misinformation and disinformation. Very different things. Stop lying. And the only reason that you're doing it is because there's a likely conflict of interest somewhere where you know that the reason why the right in the US care so much about freedom of speech, which they do not. They do not. They don't even care about a woman's right to give fucking birth. Why would they give a fuck about what she's got to say about it? You think they care? No. What they care about is laws that stop them spreading lies. Okay? And they are saying that they're criminalizing mistakes and misunderstandings so that you don't support this criminal shit. Okay? The criminal shit is not free speech. Anyway, I'll talk about the other stuff in a minute. So other key points. Parliament introduced several changes to the Commission proposal, including on exempting micro and small enterprises from certain obligations. Again, because the GDPR has created some issues there in terms of compliance, where it's actually it's impossible to comply with GDPR as a small business. So, like putting a lot of this is just reasonable, okay? Targeted advertising. The text provides for more transparent and informed choice for the recipients of digital services, including information on how their data will be monetized. Okay. Refusing content shall be no more difficult or time-consuming to the recipient than giving consent. If their consent is refused or withdrawn, recipients shall be given other options to access the online platform, including options based on tracking free advertising. So anyway, that's a good thing. Targeting or amplification techniques involving the data of minors for the purpose of displaying ads will be prohibited. That's a good thing. If you're worried about, kids, especially just like, oh my God, how can you oppose this stuff? And be like, these guys present themselves as experts on the internet. They're not. They're obviously just propagandists, because that's a deliberate lie. And these guys, yes, people lie, but at the same time, these guys are used frequently as a source to spread the other crazy shit from like Tim Pool and Russell Brand and all those, and Glenn Graham. They share this thing as a source. And if you don't click it and check it and don't understand that they are deliberately misleading people about disinformation versus misinformation, then, that's how you fucking end up radicalized. That's how you, anyway, whatever. Who gives a shit? No one listens to me anyway. So, compensation. Recipients of digital services and organisations representing them must be able to seek redress or any damages resulting from platforms not respecting their due diligence obligations. Good. You're opposed to sex trafficking. You're opposed to your kid being radicalised. All of these things. Okay, they have recourse. And it doesn't matter what the terms of service say. Now, again, you need to understand what these platforms' terms of service say, which is that the terms of service say the opposite of that, which is basically you're on your own. We can do what we want and it can change whenever you want. You can't sue us. And if you do have a problem, you have to sue us in California. You think that's fair? They want to be able to share bullshit. They want to be able to do what is being criminalized. Nobody is like criminalizing misspeaking. For fuck's sake. Online platforms, and this is my passion, okay? And to see this here actually fills me with delight, okay? Online platforms should be prohibited from using deceiving or nudging techniques to influence users' behavior through dark patterns. That's about to become law in the EU. That's fantastic because this has been part of my fight.